Once again, Claudia is the only one I care about. Episode 4 of The Vampire Lestat just dropped, and it was okay. I think it pales in comparison of episode 3, but it's definitely better than episode 1 and 2, so I'm gonna give it up for that. But let's get into it, and spoilers if you haven't seen it. This episode went back to episode 1 and 2 where Lestat is mostly giving us the information, and obviously he is not forthcoming with it. But because there are more dialogue between other characters, you're able to surmise a lot of things, so it doesn't feel as jarring and disorienting as the first 2 episodes. Starting off with Daniel, obviously he is upset that he lost all that footage. And for anyone who's ever organized any type of interview or anything that involves camera, audio, a full production team, not getting your shot or having something go wrong with the shot that you think that you had can drive you nuts. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like Daniel being this like angsty, upset teenager, because compared to the other vampires, that's what he is. I love watching him read Lestat to filth and try to get him upset, and it kind of shows the perseverance that he has, especially in this craft that he loves so much. I also thoroughly enjoyed the conversation he had with Armand, who absolutely deserves the belt. Whole time I was like, whack him again, please, Daniel. Speaking of Armand, I have to say it really hurt to see him like groveling and going through the steps. I was experiencing this like secondhand embarrassment for him, and it seemed like all the characters that he was apologizing to were doing the same. This is the first time, and probably the last, that I'm gonna ask book readers to help me out here, but there was something within the conversation between Daniel and Lestat and Daniel and Armand that kind of left me confused, and I feel like it was giving a lot of context. But it seemed like Armand organized a plane crash for Daniel and then turned him, and so they faked Daniel's death, which is definitely needed if you're a vampire. And if that's true, I think that gives a lot of context to the conversation that Daniel has with Armand, because he rather die. And honestly, I get it. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not gonna want to be turned into a vampire at 70 so I could be perpetually 70. Beyond that, it's clear that Armand did this against Daniel's will, which is assault. What I find interesting about that, especially after last episode and seeing the way that Lestat was turned, that it's becoming very clear that most vampires don't get the luxury of asking to be turned and then having that wish granted. Louis was the only one, which is probably why when he told his origin story, it was so romantic. But it brings back this theme of assault and victimization amongst these characters, and it's becoming very clear that Armand is just as much of an abuser, just as terrible as the man that turned Lestat. I'm wondering if we are interacting with that differently because of the way that the guy who turned Lestat looks, which subconsciously just makes us feel like he's a creep. Armand is handsome and he has these big doe eyes, so when he pulls up after stalking you and is all sad, we are conditioned to feel bad for him. After 500 years of doing fuck shit, finally he's getting read to filth and cannot turn to anyone but the people in AA. Good for him. That and Gabrielle's relationship continues to not just be my least favorite, but in the context of just this story on screen, it seems to be the least relevant. I'm sorry. I know you guys are running to the keyboard to be like, Frankie, you don't get it. She's this, she's that. This is why this relationship is like that. It's too much incest for me to dissect. Every time she comes up on screen with that terrible Italian accent and that worse wig, I kind of zone out. I found myself rewatching her scenes over and over again. And honestly, I think it's because when we were introduced to her through Lestat's story, we don't actually get to meet Gabrielle. And I get it, it's from his point of view. Even he is not glamorizing her in a way that makes me understand how he became this victim. And I'm not saying that you need to see glamour to become a victim, but this just reads as strange to me every time I watch him on screen. And again, she feels corny to me. When Lestat was introduced in Louis' story, we fall in love with him through Louis' eyes. We actually don't know anything about him besides what Louis and Claudia tells us, but both of them take time to share moments that makes us understand why Louis and Claudia will continue to, I don't know, make excuses for him or return to him beyond when he threatens them. Even moments like when they read his will in the bank reminds us why people love Lestat. And there's just never been a moment for me where Gabriella has felt likable, understandable. And that's just me. I get y'all may like her. I'm not here to yuck your young. I'm just saying every time she's on screen, I'm like, God, but here we go. Let's watch her make out with her son again. Or scream loudly when she has sex. I had some people try to tell me that when she had sex with his double, that she was trying to save him from the stuttering question. But after rewatching that scene and seeing her do the same thing with that Italian man, it's clear that she does it to get Lestat's attention because she wants to be the center of it and she's a narcissist. And I think that informs especially Lestat's behavior and why he gets so upset, particularly with the "I heard your heart's dancing" moment. But beyond that, I want more from her. And I still have hope that we're going to get it, that something will click for me, that I'm watching her. I'm like, that's one bad bitch there. Because I'm sorry, and then I'm going to leave this alone. Even when that Italian man came up and was like, this was the beauty of our town. She went to France where they didn't deserve her. I didn't feel bad for her. She sounded like some witch child that people adored. And I'm hoping what we'll get is a scene where she is a prison to her beauty and decides to weaponize it. Beyond that, I'm just surmising from random dialogue that we get about her where they're like, you should understand she is so complex. She is a woman who is suffering from the patriarchy and she just wants to read books. And the most compelling part of this episode was Louis' story. And I'm sorry, for the vampire Lestat, that shouldn't be the case, especially since Lestat is not involved with this part of the story. I'm sorry, to bring it back to the interview with the vampire, there were plenty of moments without Lestat that I was glued to the screen. But I was on the edge of my seat every time I watched Louis interact with Regina. I am glad that Delaney Hayes got to keep her original accent for this because they are highlighting that this is not Claudia. This is a woman from a hard life in London. And I'm glad that they highlighted that she understands this is a dangerous arrangement that she's getting into. And they did a really good job of showing that this has been a passage of time where she's having a rough time. She sees that this man is rich. She's researched it. She's fully informed. And then she made this decision. This is the most consent I think we've seen on this show yet. Even still, I have to say her desperation for money and a clean slate puts her in a position where this feels like an only option, because she made it clear that having a demon obsessed with you because you remind him of his long lost daughter is not a good look. Honestly, even if he wasn't a vampire, if a very rich man was stalking me at work because I looked like his dead daughter, I would be afraid, because the moment that I don't match up to the memory of their daughter or do something that they feel like is inappropriate for their daughter to do, I'm at risk. And doing it with someone who eats human puts you at risk of death. This is a dangerous game she's playing, but they did a really good job of highlighting that she has no other choice. I do have to say that Louis is a bird. I don't know what it is, but every time Louis talks about one of his lovers, I'm like, oh yeah, he's a chicken head. This moment where he pulled up this man on his screen that he was like, oh, I'm just fucking, but they have screensavers and all that stuff and pictures all loving together. Like, Louis, please, not today. I'm sorry. Finally, and I almost forgot, the conversation between Armand and Lestat did give us a lot of context of one, Akasha probably pulling up soon, and the fact that not just the book, but Lestat being out here and exposing who they are is causing a lot of civil unrest. In the background, they showed that there was a mass shooting that happened because of it. And as Armand is leaving Lestat, he mentions like, hey, there are a lot of vampires converting humans because they want to have people to idolize them like you do. And I'm wondering if that house that Louis went to was one of those places, like these new covens that they're building because of Lestat, because they want to be celebrities and kind of share that gift and have fledglings. That doesn't care, but I did. Although I am glad he called him out at that concert. And I loved that hairstyle that he had with the two braids. I thought it was a perfect call out to the fact that he was a French aristocrat and now he's a glam rock singer. Like, it was a great merging of that. Even the makeup, like French people back in the day used to, powder their face up, blah, blah, blah. Lestat just don't give a fuck. And the repercussions of his actions are going to be way bigger than his domestic disputes with people like Louis. But we gonna see, y'all. Either way, like I said, this episode was pretty good, but I'm waiting for it to be great, and I know it's there. I know it's coming. I'm gonna go ahead and give this episode 3 out of 5 Frankie Flames. But tell me, what are your thoughts on all of this? Please let me know in my comments below.